Alright, so welcome to a new video. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at how I've managed to make over $15,000 from one book in the last 3 or 4 months publishing through Amazon KDP. So quick disclaimer, this is not normal. This is not a result that everyone can expect to achieve. However, what I can say is that I guarantee that if you implement these strategies and mentalities that I talk about throughout this video, you will massively increase your chances of making sales in these high demand niches. There's a lot of misinformation, a lot of misleading information out there on YouTube when it comes to making sales in these type of niches. So this is going to be a long ass video. It's going to shed a ton of light on this side of publishing, and we're going to go into a lot of different elements, a lot of different factors that managed to help me create this type of income from one book. Okay, so bear in mind, this is the result now of over 10 years of publishing through Amazon KDP. But like I say, as you slowly start implementing these strategies into your publishing business, I guarantee you can have better results than what you're doing at the moment. So let's take a look at what's inside this video. And actually, I should probably quickly go over to my dashboard just to prove that this money is legit, that I know what I'm talking about, and I am actually getting these royalties every single month. So let's just head over to my dashboard and take a look at the royalties and of course the spend on advertising as well. So what we can see here is that in this month so far, it's earned $4,535 from that one book, which was uploaded in February. And if I just do a quick refresh by selecting the lifetime, I think actually maybe I should do this year just so you can see that it was published this year. In 2023, $15,981. Now obviously you want to see the ad spend for this as well. The ad spend, the lifetime ad spend for this is $566. So obviously you can subtract that from this number here, and you can see that the royalties are going to be around 15,400. okay, so that, I don't like talking about the income that I'm making, but it is a significant amount, and the strategies that go into earning this type of money, the reality that is behind earning this type of money, I'm going to go through in this video now. So let's just take a look at what we are going to be talking about in this video when it comes to the results for this book. And bear in mind, it's going to be a long one. It's going to be a long one. It's going to be a good one though, so make sure that you stick around for it. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to be talking about is the niche selection and criteria that I went for when it comes to this type of book, when it comes to high demand books. We'll take a look at everything that goes into that. From there, we'll take a look at selecting the keywords and creating the book title for that book. We'll take a look at how I've had that content created. We'll take a look at the advertising costs and just general information when it comes to Amazon ads. Now this is going to be a massive section, so if you are watching this video, make sure that you at least watch this section here, because over the last couple months where I've not been making YouTube videos, I've been talking to a lot of people, and a lot of people's main concern is advertising, and they're not getting clicks, they're spending too much money, they're not seeing any results, etc, etc. So this is going to clear up a ton of things when it comes to Amazon ads. So make sure if you're running ads and you're getting pissed off with them, that you watch this section of this video. Okay, so from there we'll take a look at the results that I've had from building an email list, which is something not many people talk about, or people talk about but they don't have any actual results to show for it. I'm going to be showing off the actual results when it comes to building an email list. So if you're not sure what building an email list is, it's basically capturing people's emails in exchange for what is typically a free item. So in my case, it was like 40 free digital coloring page downloads. We'll take a look at that and the costs associated with that as well. We'll take a look whether the price increase affected the sales for this book and my other books. Then we move on to talk about some other sections here, whether this is just luck, and whether if you have this luck that you should then sit back, relax, retire, etc, etc. You already know the answer to that. From there, toward the end of this video, we'll take a look at going against the grain. So mentalities that I think and strategies and pursuits that people have really just got lost in like 2017, 2018. I think a lot of information, and not to be distasteful, that people put out on YouTube is very old. So the results that I'm having from this book are from 2023, and the strategies that I talk about are ones that you can use going forward for a long time. From there, we're going to be talking about a Discord group that I'm potentially going to be opening up. where we're going to have lots of KDP chat, free chat, maybe a paid area where we talk about one-on-one calls, group calls, etc., etc. That's just like a very early thought, but that is something that I need to get people's feedback on as well. But that's something toward the end of the video that we're going to talk about. So enough rambling, let's get into this video and talk about how I selected the niche for this book and the criteria that I go for with this book as well, in these type of books. So niche information, the main thing here is that if you expect to earn this type of money, you know, the money that everyone flashes up on screen like I've just done at the start of this video, the main thing that you need to know here is that if you're going to earn that type of money from 1 or 2 books or 10 books or a very low number of books, is that the niches that you go into, they have to have high demand. Okay, so there has to be customers out there that want to buy the books. Okay, that is the absolute bare minimum when it comes to making this type of money. I'm going to give examples now, but let's just go to these next 2 points here, which is talking about whether competitive means that there's high demand, and also we'll be talking about something that people never really talk about, and that is what the niche potential cap is. So there's going to be more about this later on in the video, because it's going to be important when it comes to your advertising spend as well. Okay, so let's just go over these 3 points first by heading over to Amazon and using some examples on some similar types of books to what I've been publishing. So the first thing that I want to do is put out a scenario that you've recently watched a video, or you've been told by someone, or there's a buzz going around a certain type of niche. And let's say, for example, that niche is an axolotl coloring book. What we can see is that there are quite a lot of axolotl coloring books. So when it comes to there being a competitive niche, does that instantly mean that there's going to be a high demand for it? If your favorite tuber has told you that this is the new hot niche, does that mean that there is demand going to these books? The answer is no. So the importance here, and I know this is like a big drag to listen to sometimes, but you have to, if you want to earn good money from KDP, you have to do niche research, and you have to establish if there is buyer traffic going to the book that you're interested in publishing. So you have to fuck what anyone else says or recommends. Everything ends at you and what you do when it comes to publishing books. Okay, so for example, when we get our BSR calculator, and our BSR extension here, which is DS Amazon Quick View, this is one of the easiest ways to establish whether the niche has got traffic going to it or not. So this is something that will take time for you to sort of get a feel for, but you should, if you do your own research, you don't use any tools, you don't need a tool telling you about niches being good or not. The tool you use is in your head, it's called your brain, and you need to work this out yourself. So if you were to look through an axolotl coloring book, and you could see that the lowest one was ranked at 81,000, and it was a sponsored listing, and the consistency of these BSRs are really bad. We're looking at 600,000, 400,000, 90 what we see 141,000, 800,000, and there's quite a lot of these books, right? This is not like it's an untapped niche or anything. It's like, why are there so many axolotl books? Okay, so there's a reason why people are doing it. Is because people they flock towards certain niches, like brainless zombies, and they just publish hoping for the best, right? So you can look through this and you realize that this is not a good niche. I would not in a million years put money or time into an axolotl coloring book, because the data is telling me on Amazon that there's no buyer traffic going to it, or there's very minimal. Even for books that are priced at $3.99, you know, this is making like a sale a day. It's shit. There's no point in doing it. Okay, if you're going to go after books that take time and money to create, you know, go after ones that are high demand. Okay, so you need to do this research yourself. And what I will say is that the book that I'm talking about, the coloring book that I produced, is pretty much always ranked under excuse me, is always pretty much ranked under 1,000 on the .com store, and the result of that is around $4,000 to $5,000 per month. Okay, and I can tell you the royalties per book is pretty low as well, so you can work out from that the sheer volume of traffic going to those type of books. Okay, so anything under 1,000 is amazing. Anything under 10,000 is really good. When we're looking at books that are like 500,000, you know, this is what I would say the average for this type of book is. It's like 500,000. That's nothing. There's no sales going to it. It's like one a sale a day. It's nothing, right? So on the other side of the coin, we have example here being swear word coloring books, and you would have heard of these if you've done any niche research. You'll know this is competitive. Now this is competitive because it's high demand. Okay, this is competitive because it is high demand. So if you take a look through the BSRs on this for this type of niche here, okay, they're extremely low. We get down to 657, 485, 3,000, 25,000, 11,000, 11,000, 7,000, 6,000, 14,000, 51,000, blah 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 blah. Okay, so it's a very, very good niche. This is not a niche reveal. You've seen these sort of books before. It makes no difference who sees this. Okay, this is a niche that has got a ton of traffic going to it. So the other thing here that we need to touch upon is what the niche potential is. So the reason I talk about what a niche potential, the niche potential cap, I think I referred to it as, is because this is going to be important when it comes to setting a budget, when it comes to advertising campaigns. So we'll talk about that in the ads section of this video. But what you want to assume, and what I tend to assume when it comes to publishing these type of books, is that the potential is only as good as what the best ranked book is. Okay, so the potential for a swear word coloring book is probably around 400 and something BSR on the .com store, which is obviously phenomenal. It's making insane amounts of money. Okay, so that's the potential. It doesn't mean you can get there, but that is the potential for this niche, because only X amount of people are going to want the type of books that you're selling. Okay, so only X amount of people will want axolotl coloring books, and that number appears to be quite low. So you can't, in my opinion, you can't randomly force more people to want this type of book just through virtue of you creating it or thinking it's better than other people's books. And you definitely can't force more people to want it just because you spend more on your advertising campaigns. Okay, so niche potential is massive in my opinion. You have to consider this going forward. But this, that's everything that my thought process was when it comes to the niche selection for this book. So I'll talk about how I actually found the niche in just a second, but I want to show you a couple more things first in this section before moving on. So one of the things here when it comes to selling in high demand niches is that where there's room for improvement, where everyone is doing the same shit, you want to capitalize on that. So for me, if we were taking the swear word coloring books as an example here, what we can see, what people do when it comes to these type of niches is that they do the bare minimum. So if I just head back over to Amazon quickly, and we take a look again at the swear word coloring books, for example. Now, some of these are gorgeous, like this one and this one. They look fantastic. I love them. But for the most part, when people reveal these niches and they show other people how to make books in these niches, we will do the bare minimum. So what will happen is that people will tend to get like a background from Creative Fabrica, and then they'll shove some text on it. And then go ahead and publish it. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't look good and that it doesn't work, because it does, and there are books on the front page that are crushing it with really simplistic books that have been made like that. So for you, imagine the amount of people that are going and doing that now. It is a ton of people doing that. So there's an opportunity, and this is what I was doing with my book, to create something different, something similar but different. Okay, so for example, if you saw that there was a really generic looking book, I'm not sure if I can see the cover, the interior. Yeah, so this is a prime example here. Like, this is a background taken from somewhere, and then they got some text saying, fuck this shit on it. Nothing wrong with it. Like, it's fine. It's doing really well, but that doesn't mean that you're going to do well from doing that, because everyone else is going to be doing that. So for me, I was in the same situation. It was like a pattern type coloring book where everyone was creating the same type of patterns, generic patterns. So what I said to my designer was, look, I want to have the patterns created in a certain, like, I don't know what the word would be, like swirly, intertwiney kind of way that did incorporate some text into it as well, kind of. It was very unique, and communicating that with the designer was very important to get what I wanted back. And we created something unique that people haven't necessarily seen before in this niche. So when you pair that, let me just go back here. When someone comes through Amazon in these high demand niches and they're going through and looking at all these books, because they will look, some people will obviously just buy based on the price or whatever. Some people will do that, but a lot of people will look to see if there's anything that's actually a little bit different, and people are willing to pay for something that's a little bit different as well. Okay, so imagine if you got your book ranked on the first page for this keyword term, and you had something, a different offering that was better than what other people were doing, kind of like this book here, for example. Okay, this is just better than the typical books that are being made in this niche, and it's obviously it's making a stupendous amount of money. Okay, again, not a typical result, obviously, but that's the mentality that I went for when it came to publishing my book, and people really resonated with it, and they were buying it, and they are buying it like crazy, because in a niche that's got high demand, it's different. The price point is on point. The price is on point, and it's ranked on the first pages. And the thing is, when you get into these bigger high demand niches, and this is why I like these high demand niches, is that once the ball starts rolling, your book will start turning up everywhere. So you'll get ranked for your initial search terms, which could be swear word coloring book, and then you'll end up getting ranked for adult coloring book, and I don't know, motivating coloring books, or things I want to say at work coloring book, all these different phrases you'll start showing up for. You'll start showing up on people's product pages as well, and that's the beauty when it comes to these type of books. Okay, so it is to keep in mind, obviously that doesn't mean if you publish in this niche or this type of niche that's going to happen to you, but in my opinion, this is a million times better. The risk is a million times better than wasting a year of your life grinding out low content shit books and just hoping that some are going to make sales. Okay, and that's the reality, is that we look at kind of one in, I don't know, maybe 1 in 20 is what I would hope to get like a really killer book from. The rest of them, like, even if you don't hit those numbers, which obviously it's going to be very hard to do, even if you don't, you still have a much better chance of making decent sales, $200,000, $100,000 a month, from a lower amount of books. Okay, so that's the thought process here when it comes to the niche selection. So why do I prefer these niches? I've just gone over that. So also, these were quite easy to outsource. I know outsourcing can be a pain for some people. I will talk about this in the content creation side of things, but you know, this is quite interesting because a lot of books now, especially coloring books, they're just AI, and customers are starting to complain about AI books being uploaded. So the great thing is that if you can find a designer that is actually talented in doing like the whole hand-drawn thing, that's also a positive as well. I'll be talking about that later in this video as well. So the other thing here that people go crazy over, and what I don't really care myself, what I don't really sort of concern myself with, is the number of reviews that you're competing against, because the niche that I'm in for this book is got literal, like, the competition is mad, honestly, like, it's crazy. The reviews for other people's books are extremely good, and I promise you from the bottom of my heart that when I released the book and it started doing well, it was outperforming books that had like thousands of reviews when this book had none. So if you can come into a high demand niche, and you can offer something different, something gorgeous, something beautiful, something that really resonates with the customers after doing proper research being looking for those high demand niches, looking for what the customer wants, and then building upon that with something unique, then you don't need reviews to get going, I promise you. Now, I've seen people who have made shit books, they've gone off and they've done the whole review swap thing, and I don't know, got reviews from their friends and family, and the books just cave in eventually and just die because the book isn't good enough on its own. Okay, so the book has to be good enough on its own merit for this to work. So that's enough about the niche information here. I think actually what I wanted to do was to very quickly go over how I actually found these niches, how I find all my niches. This is so painfully boring and simple that a lot of people are going to brush this off, but I promise you, this is the optimal way for finding niches that are in demand, or any niche pretty much. So what I do is I go over to Amazon and I look at books. I can't believe that I just said that in the most simplistic way, but that is the reality. So for example, what I'll do is I'll just come over to Amazon, I'll look for something like a coloring book, spelt wrong obviously, and just scroll through and just see what other books are selling. So for example, a mermaid coloring book, unicorn coloring book, secret worlds, probably don't want to do that. What else is hot at the moment? I've not really looked through, and just find some that have got low BSRs and then just go from there. So we could take a look at nothing's really grabbing me here that I'm interested in at the moment. Like these amazing patterns coloring books, like this could be a good example of a niche where it'd be very easy to establish whether there's good traffic going to it. So you'd search from here, you'd go and take a look at these books, see what these people are doing well, and then go ahead and do your research on pattern coloring books, for example, or amazing pattern coloring books. So I think the keyword probably is. Take a look at those and do your research like we did in the first part of this video. That is all that I do. And what you can also do is just come down to the products related to this item and go through other similar products, and that's going to start finding like the mandala stuff, mandala coloring books. You can then go and do your research on mandala coloring books or tattoo coloring books. This is the easiest way of doing niche research. It's so easy, it works. You don't need tools, you don't need anything else to find these niches. And I've always said to people that the longer that you spend on Amazon, the better it's going to be, the better understanding that you're going to have of the niches that you're getting into. And your niche research is just going to get better and better and better. So I urge anyone that's using tools, niche research tools, to stop using them. But obviously that's down to you. It might help some people get started, but that's just the way that I found the niche that I'm entering into. So let's move on from the niche now. So let's move on to keywords, which is obviously the most important thing on the planet, which everyone cares about the most. Apologies for the sarcasm, but this is something I feel kind of strongly about. Now, before I get into this section, I want to put something out there when it comes to mentalities with KDP and why I'm presenting this information to you the way that I am. So what you'll find is that we have two extremes of people. We have people who are kind of I guess very militant artists and writers, authors, etc., who think Amazon's platform belongs to them and them only. And then we have the people that are just like internet marketers who are focused on the keywords, and all those sort of special strategies for getting ranked and just finding the best niches, etc. So on one side of the coin, we have people that believe in just uploading the quality, and the book is going to sell from just the quality of your book and the passion that you put behind your book. And then we have the internet or the wannabe internet marketers that just really focused on finding out these little keywords where you're going to get ranked and make tons of money. The reality and what I'm trying to present in this video here and the way that I do things is that the reality is going to lie in the middle of those two things here. So taking the emphasis off of like these really special keywords is very important for me, and actually focusing on the quality of the work as well is mega important. Okay, that is something that people miss out on massively, is understanding what the quality of your book is, blah blah blah, and also pairing that with a very a kind of mechanical way of marketing that book as well through keywords and Amazon ads. Okay, so that's why I'm talking about the way that I do in these videos, and that's why some of it seems a little bit vague, and that's why this section might seem a bit vague as well. Okay, so let's just view things in a slightly different way here, because what you'll find is that people are talking about profitable keywords. I've never seen anyone talk about the keywords that I use for my book as being profitable. I think it's stupid. I think keywords really are just a way of being found on Amazon. Okay, so if your book quality, like we spoke about a second ago, is shit, then it's not going to be a profitable keyword. Okay, so Amazon is a search-based platform, and we need to guide people in the direction of our books by using what is blatantly logical search terms to get that visibility. Okay, so what I went with here is what is a blatantly logical search term. We don't use any tools whatsoever. We don't need any tools to tell us about which niche keywords to go for, etc. We go with what is blatantly logical because that's what people are probably going to be searching for. Now, when it comes to Amazon ads, I think this is a different matter. I think when it comes to ads and people converting for really strange search terms, I think that's a thing. But when it comes to like getting your book ranked organically and being found organically and making organic sales, I think what is logical is the main thing here. So I'm going to give examples in just a second here. But what we want to do is to include our logical search terms in our title and our subtitle. Okay, so I'm going to give you the structure of how I do things now. Again, it's going to be slightly vague, but that's because of what I've just explained. So typically what I like to go for when it comes to creating the titles and the subtitles is that we want to include the main niche, which in this case would be, for example, the coloring book. Then we want to include the topic of the book, which is swear word. and then the audience, okay, so the adults. So if this was a unicorn activity book for kids, our main niche would be an activity book, and then the topic would be unicorn, and then the audience would be kids. Okay, so that's pretty much all that goes into creating the title, or finding the profitable keywords, as it were. And from there, what I like to do is to confirm that people are probably searching for it on Amazon. So probably being the key phrase here, because no matter what tools you're using, no matter what it is, there are no tools out there that have Amazon search data. I promise you're not going to find them. I think Helium 10 used to, but they don't exist anymore. They're not based off of Amazon searches, so why should you listen to them? It might give you some idea, but it's not going to be the best. But using the search, the suggestion box on Amazon is probably going to be your best bet. So if we logically thought the best title for our book was Swear Word Coloring Book for Adults, let's go and see if people are probably searching for that on Amazon. Okay, so what I would do in this scenario for this type of book, and what I have been doing, is I just started typing in Swear Word Coloring Book, and then I like to see that there are sort of branch off results coming from Amazon searches as well. So the pink and the blue or green boxes, whatever color they are here, this is from a search tool that I don't actually use anymore, which is AMZ Suggestion Expander. For the niches that I'm entering into, I just use Amazon's suggestions here. So for this book here, I can see that Amazon is suggesting that swear word coloring book for adults is something people should probably be searching for. If Amazon suggests that, then I'm going to use that as a title or subtitle, or within the title and subtitle for my book. Okay, so once people search for that, they're going to be presented with the pages here with the best books on them, the most relevant books. And if we did our niche research correctly and we saw that the BSRs are very low after this search term, then hey, guess what? This is now a profitable keyword search term, right? And then obviously we want to go into the different factor, which is actually getting found on this page. Okay, so that's the process when it comes to the keywords, as in the title for your book. Subtitle, it's a similar story where we don't put too much emphasis on it. It needs to make sense. Amazon's kind of clamping down, it sounds like, on using repetitive keyword terms. So what I like to do, and what I was doing for my book, was to just go through and see what other phrases people were using in their books that I hadn't already used in my title, and then form a subtitle from that as well. So what you can do, and what I like to do when it comes to these type of niches, is that you want to make the assumption, and this is going to make creating your titles and subtitles much easier, is you want to make the assumption that if you're in a high demand niche, you're going to get a lot of visibility. Okay, so when you get a lot of visibility, you're going to get ranked for lots of different search terms. So before you create that title and subtitle, so what I was thinking to myself with this book is, like, if I'm creating a swear word coloring book and I'm going to get a lot of visibility, or have the potential to get a lot of visibility, then I want to include other search terms that people might be searching for as well, and give myself a chance of being ranked for them at some point. Okay, so if we found that the words like relaxing or stress or whatever were being searched for as well, then we could include that in our title or subtitle and eventually end up being ranked for them as well. That's probably not the best example, because I don't think you should claim stress relief or anxiety relief or relaxation or anything like that. My point being, if your main search term was swear word coloring book for adults, and then you had the word relaxing in the subtitle, you would probably get ranked for variations like relaxing coloring book as well, if you were getting enough sales. Okay, so the important thing here is that we get ranked for our main sort of search terms, and then from there we want the terms in our subtitle to give us a chance of being ranked for them as well. So that's going to give you it's going to eliminate some headaches for you when it comes to creating your subtitles as well. Okay, so let's move on back to our PowerPoint. Okay, so backing keywords are whatever, and keywords in description are whatever as well. So by whatever, I don't mean put whatever you want into them. I mean that I take the emphasis away from back-end keywords and stressing over whether keywords in your description get indexed or not. Like, I don't give a fuck, man. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But I think if you're prioritizing that, then maybe you've prioritized the wrong thing, because if you're writing a description about your book, then it will probably naturally have some keywords in it. Same goes with the back-end keywords. Like, people are obsessed with with what the best ones are. Just don't put the same ones that you put in your title and subtitle and make it relevant to your niche. Don't put trademark shit in there. Don't put irrelevant shit in there. Just be smart. Just put in relevant keywords and you're going to be absolutely fine. Okay, I don't think there's that much importance over them. Okay, your main thing is your title and your subtitle when it comes to actually being found on Amazon. So hopefully that has explained that. And like I've already said here, is that I focus on what I want to rank. In this case would be like a swear word coloring book, and then variations of that which would include in the title. So that could be I don't know, funny. Maybe people were searching for funny coloring books, and you might end up getting ranked for that as well. Because once you get when you get into these type of niches and the ball gets rolling, the whole snowball effect does actually happen. And what you'll find is that your book will turn up all over the place. If there's enough traffic and demand and sales going to your book, it turns up all over the place on Amazon. It's linked to other people's books all over the place as well. You get ranked for all these other search terms as well. And it's a wonderful thing. And that's why I'm creating the titles and the subtitles the way that I do it. And that's why I love entering into these niches. Yes, it might screw up. Yes, we might not have one of these books in our first 10, 20, 30 or 40 efforts. But when it happens, you can see the money. It's life-changing. It is. Okay. And I would rather people do that than spend a year of their life pumping out shitty low content books, just hoping to accumulate enough sales across like 500 books. Just to make like $50 to $100 a month, which is bullshit. But yeah, let's move on. Okay, so let's talk about creating the content. Now, it's going to be quite a short section of this video, and the next section we're going to be talking about advertising, which is the big section that I want. Even if you're not interested in this mini case study thing at all, watch this section, the next section about ads, because it's going to be really important. It's going to help you out a ton. So the content creation, I hired someone from Upwork. It's someone that I've worked with before on my previous coloring books. So that's the great thing about hiring someone that you trust and you work well with, and you like I say, that you trust basically, and that you can rely on, is that you will be able to work with them in future projects. And this is someone that I've used before, and I used for this book, and yeah, they're very good. So basically what I do is I hire the absolute best that I can within my budget. So I'm not going to talk about the budget for the book that I created, because if it's $1,000, you're going to tell me it's too much. If it's $50, you're going to tell me it's not enough. You can probably work out what I've paid based on those two extremes. But I hire the best that I can within my budget, to the point where I'm happy with the money, they're happy with the money, and I feel like I'm not taking the piss out of them. They're motivated enough to do the work that I need them to do. Because if you hire someone, honestly, for like $50 to do 40-50 pages or something, I wouldn't be motivated. Obviously some countries it might be considered okay money, but I'm not tight with my budget, put it that way. So that was very important for keeping them motivated to create something gorgeous. And basically all I did with them was to communicate my desires after doing my niche research. So I wrote down just a ton of things that I wanted on every single page, believe it or not, for like a pattern coloring book. That's quite substantial. But I put a lot of thought into the books like this, the coloring books especially, to make them different and to stand out in the marketplace. And communicating those desires with whoever's creating them, even if that's yourself, is very important. Okay, so what we ended up with after maybe 2 or 3 weeks of work was that the interior absolutely smokes the competition. It is, in my opinion, it's tons better. And the reviews are reflective of that as well. So super important that you create an amazing interior if you're going to be getting into these high demand niches. Really important for getting good reviews. And I even have people come back saying that they're going to buy more from this brand as well, i.e. my coloring book brand, which is amazing. And all these things that we're talking about here, they might seem like minimal in terms of what you've been told about low content book publishing and publishing in general to make money. But all these things add up to creating a much better income. And I've been in this scenario where I'm pumping out tons of books with shoddy interiors. It doesn't work. Like, it might work a little bit for a little while, but it's nowhere near, the results that you can achieve from actually being a little bit more thoughtful and creating something that looks a little bit better. So the other thing here is that there's no chance of AI creating this. And I know that someone in the comment is already going to say, well, AI can create everything. I don't believe it. I think the way that I had these created, it's for me, I can tell what's being created with AI at the moment, at the stage that AI is at. It's impressive, yes, but I still notice them when I'm going through Amazon looking at coloring books. You can see them. They do look cool. I admit that they do look cool, but I don't think AI could have created this type of book, and that is really important for me, because while a lot of people will see this as a negative, that there's lots of AI books being uploaded onto Amazon, I actually see this as an opportunity. And this is the way that is the mentality that has kept me going for such a long time, is that I take positives. I have to, and I think you have to as well. You have to take positives from absolutely everything that happens. So for example, with AI now flooding the marketplace, I've looked at this as an opportunity that if I continue to hire people who can actually design things that, you know, eventually people are going to find out, and there are already negative reviews on Amazon saying, oh, this is created by AI, oh, this looks like grayscale, oh, this is blurry, oh, the lines don't look right, oh, this person's got 19 fingers. Okay, this is already happening on Amazon. So I see this as an opportunity to create something you know, that is now probably not the normal, which is to hire someone to create something gorgeous in these niches. Okay, so yeah, like I say, that was an opportunity for me. I felt like it was, that there's no chance of AI creating that type of book. Okay, so with that in mind, let's move on to the big section. This is the one that I kind of want to focus on quite hard in this, is advertising, Amazon ads. Now, if you're at this point and you feel like you've got some value from this video, I'd love for you to like or give me a subscribe. That'd be amazing. If you feel like you're getting value from this video, that would be fantastic. I appreciate that. But this is the big section, so you can maybe decide if you want to subscribe after you've watched this video, this part of the video, because this is huge. So Amazon ads, let me tell you, Amazon ads are weird. Like, this is something that you have to accept when you're going to run ads, is that they're not going to go the way that you want them to. You might have created an auto campaign or a manual campaign with high click prices, and you're not getting any impressions. Okay, this happens, you have to accept that ads are weird. Okay, so for the book that I'm talking about here, I managed to get low click prices, okay, from doing an auto up and down, I think it was maybe 30-cent campaign for this book. Okay, so the results here were the clicks were quite low for this book. They weren't the determining factor to the book's success, but it does help that initially, if we are getting low clicks, that's even better. If they had to be higher, if they were 80 cent, 90 cent, $1 per click, then I would have done that as well, because it all plays into just ranking the book. So the main thing here is that we have to be smart with our Amazon ads. Okay, this is smart spending. So this is mega important here. Okay, so I'm going to go into my dashboard and just take a quick look at the spend for this book. Okay, so my budget is based off of the niche potential. So do you remember previously, if you've watched all this video, we spoke about the niche cap, and we saw that the niche the BSRs were really low for some of these books, really low. So that means that I'm thinking to myself, before I even launch this book, I might have to spend more money to compete and get ranked for these niches. Okay, in this niche. Okay, so I set myself a budget of $200 for the first month due to the niche potential. So let's take a look at what I actually spent during the launch month. Don't know why I put $184. I'm not sure that's accurate. Let's go ahead and take a look at what I spent on the first month for this book, which is in a competitive niche. This is going to be quite the reveal. Okay, so let's come over to the advertising campaign here. Now, what we can see, I've just filtered it out by lifetime, and I filtered it out by the campaigns for this book. So obviously we got going in February, so this was the first actual month. I'd imagine maybe we started toward the end of January. I'm not sure exactly, but we spent $159. So that is nowhere near the amount that people suggest you have to spend to get ranked for in a competitive niche. Okay, I would tell you factually, if you've watched my case studies, you've watched any videos that I've shown of books where I'm ranking them, you don't need that much money to rank your book. Okay, people who have no clue what they're talking about, saying the only reason these guys are making tons of money is because they spend thousands of dollars a month on their ads. They don't know what they're talking about. Dumbasses. Like, it's embarrassing, but this is the reality, is that you don't have to spend that much. So when it comes to your budget, you can obviously, if things are going well, you can obviously increase that budget as you go forward. Okay, so what I found during the launch period for this book, where I'm spending most of the money, so maybe it took like $40 to $50 the first week or so to get the book ranked, is that I saw that organically the books were selling well. So I let the ad spend run, okay, and I just keep letting the ad spend run. If the book is going well, if the organic sales are dwarfing the ad spend sales, then I let the books run, okay? I let the ad campaigns run, sorry. So also what we can see here, and this is really important, is that I was testing lots of different campaigns. I probably blurred these out because they have the name of the brand on them. So what I was doing was testing auto 20 cent up and down, which is this one here. I turned off a manual 40 cents down campaign. I turned off a keyword campaign. I turned off a really cheap, I've left a really cheap auto up and down going. And then I've turned off a load of others. And you can see like I have tons of campaigns that I've created here. I've left some of them on, but I've turned a lot of these off as well. So when it comes to actually ranking the book for this book here, I think this is obviously, I don't know the exact number because it was a while ago, but it was a very minimal amount. I think it was possibly around $40. So what's happening here is that I set this initial budget of $200 for the first month, okay, and then everything else works within that. So after the first, let's say, week, I think I spent around $40 to get the book ranked, okay? So once the book has been ranked, I then start monitoring to see how that's doing organically. I don't just keep spending money on ads, pumping tons and tons and tons and tons of money into ads, hoping that something special is going to happen for it. No, the ads are there to serve the purpose of being ranked, okay? So once the book was ranked, I just let the ad spend go because I was very happy with the organic sales for it. Okay, so there's going to be this scenario where I've spoken about this in videos before, where you want to kind of you want to lower your ACoS by decreasing your bids and filtering out certain search terms. I've honestly not done it for this book because you can see here some of the campaigns that are still running are at 48%. 28%, and none of these are break even, by the way. These are all losing little bits of money. 27% is probably losing money as well. So the reason for that is because there are so many organic sales going to it that I really don't care about leaving these campaigns on. Like, it would feel like a risk to turn any campaign off that's making sales at this point. So anything that's losing a tiny bit of money at like 48%, 30% or whatever, I just leave them turned on. I've not really optimized these at all. Because they just serve the purpose, that the ads serve the purpose of getting the book ranked. So let me talk about something here when it comes to your niche potential. If you have your book ranked, now this is very, 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 very important. You have to ask yourself, if the niche that you're in, let's say that you have an axolotl coloring book, for example. Okay, let's say this is the niche that you're in and you've got the book ranked on the first page. You have to ask yourself now, at this point, is there any point whatsoever in spending tons and tons and tons of money on a book that doesn't have a potential, a customer base that has the potential to earn you to get more sales in that niche, right? It's just not going to be worth it, okay? So you have to take that niche cap into consideration when you're leaving those ads running, because you're going to end up spending a ton of money on books that people don't necessarily want. So as you can see here, the first month was $159. The second month was $123. Like, typically, I would not have these books spending so much each month. I would look for books campaigns to be maybe like $10 to $15, $20 per month. But like I say, because the organic sales are so good, I don't mind letting the budget go. It's fine. Like, it's absolutely fine to leave the budget going if it makes sense to do that. $100 the next month. $83. So what's happening here is that I am actually slowly turning off some of the campaigns. That's why the spend is going down. But it would be much more drastic if this book wasn't performing that well. I'd be cutting off campaigns, trying to adjust the bids and all sorts of things. But that's not happening. Okay, so the ad spend for June was $89. It's nothing versus what it's actually making. Okay, so that's important. You need to pair up the two about what you're spending and what you're actually making, because there's no point in spending $1,000 a month on ads, losing tons of money, and then having like 4 organic sales a month alongside that. Okay, so that is a thing. That is a thing where you will spend tons of money on ads, but the organic sales will not be proportionate. It's probably because the niche you're in is shit. So with that in mind, let's move on to the next part of the advertising section. So just going to talk about what I released the book at. So I released the book at a slightly lower price. I think it was $6.90. It might have been $97. I'm not quite sure. No, sorry, I released it. So I released it at a higher price of $7.97, I think it was. And after the first couple of days, the ads weren't converting that well, so I dropped it to a slightly more competitive price. It might have been slightly lower than $6.97, but then it started to really start gathering sales at that price point. Okay, so typically I'm not someone that puts importance on the pricing, but it might have been a case of $7.97 being too much for a book that's got no reviews on it. I'm not quite sure. This could have been a coincidence, but dropping the price ever so slightly to a more competitive number actually really helped. Okay, so the book now goes back up in price to, I think, nearly $8. It might be after the price change. We'll talk about that if it's still performing or not in a later video, in later on in this video. But that's basically what I was launching the book at. So some people, and I've tried this before myself, will launch the book at a break-even point, and I've done this before, where I actually released this addition and subtraction workbook. I released this at a break-even point, just to see how well that would work, and it does work well. But the thing is, I don't want to push this perspective onto my audience that releasing your book at a lower price is a good idea, but it's just something to take into consideration when it comes to ranking your book, that it might work well for some more experienced people. Okay, so the main thing that I want to get across here is that if you're going to be doing Amazon ads, then you definitely should budget around this, okay? Because if running ads, if losing money, if losing $500 a month or $300 or $10,000 a month is going to make you feel like absolute shit, then you can't do it. Okay, you have to budget to the point where you're happy, and you have to be smart within that budget. Okay, so give yourself a budget for the month. If it's $100, make it $100 and don't overspend. So the week one is when I tend to go and spend a decent amount of that budget to try and get ranked from the front page, and then I assess what's going on with the advertising campaigns from there. So it's not just a case of just leaving them on and on and on and on and on and on and getting stressed and shitty because I'm not getting the results that I want. It has to be thoughtful, it's got to be strategic, and you have to budget in order to sort of remove these horrible emotions and feelings from the equation. Okay, so let's just touch back upon, I want to really make a point out of budgeting and losing money on advertising campaigns. So let's use our axolotl. Let's assume, for whatever reason, that I wanted to publish in this niche. After doing the research and figuring out that maybe the demand isn't that high for this type of book, I would look at this and I'd say to myself, my budget for my advertising campaigns over the course of a month is probably going to be about $10 to $15 for this book here, because like I say, the reality is that if you just keep spending and spending and spending and spending, getting those click after click after click after click, you have to ask yourself, like, what's the point in doing this? We already know it's hard to make a direct profit from ads, so what's the point in spending tons of money? So the reality here is that we want to spend a proportionate amount. So if we're going to get ranked for an axolotl coloring book, I'm looking to spend $5, get it ranked, and then hopefully leave it to do its organic thing. Okay, because like I say, there's only a certain amount of reach that these books are going to have, so you always have to take that into consideration when running ads to your books. Okay, so the main takeaway here when it comes to ads is that it's hard, because I want there to be some really fancy, amazing strategy, and I think people want to know that this amazing strategy works, but there isn't. Like, this is just such a boring pursuit of just testing different campaigns, working within your budget, and then using that budget to get your book ranked, and then just monitoring things from there. Okay, so it is a case of you'll get used to doing this, and you'll get an understanding as to what your book and what your time is actually worth investing ads into, like how much ad spend is actually worth investing into that book. But again, it's something that takes time. So $566 is the total ad spend over like 3 or 4 months for this book. And the reason why I leave it going, like I say, is because the organic sales, they're just dwarfing it. So I just leave them going. Okay, if they weren't dwarfing it, then I would have done a lot of changes. I would have done a lot of tweaking to the campaigns to try and make something work. Okay, so that's it for the advertising section here. And I will actually just note one more thing here, because I talked to a lot of people who do use this similar strategy of getting their books ranked through Amazon ads. So what people would tend to find is that they will run the ads, they'll get some sales, and then they're going to get ranked for that. And then what they'll find is that when they turn off the ads, is that they start dying off, the sales start dying off, and they start leaving the front page. So in my opinion is that this might happen because the niche isn't strong enough, or because your offering within that niche isn't strong enough either. Okay, so that's the reality. Is if you enter into a high competition niche, you have to have a really strong offering within that niche. Okay. All right, so let's move on to list building. Now this is an interesting one because I'm quite new to this. I'm not doing it in an optimal way by any stretch of the imagination, but it is something that is well known for being quite powerful, and I know it myself. I build lists through YouTube, for example, and promote to people sometimes to those lists. So the same would apply here when it comes to collecting emails from your books. Okay, so the main thing that I want to note here is that this is slow, like it is mega slow. From the thousands of books sold, I've had around 200 emails collected. So this is primarily due to the nature of, having like a website or a QR code at the end of your book, and then X amount of people going through and wanting to actually, use that QR code or go to the website, being very low. Okay, so and the other side of things is that I've not done this in the most optimal way. I just kind of set it up and just waited to see what happened. I haven't actually promoted to that list yet. So that obviously there are a few important things you'd have to consider about the user's data and stuff like that when you actually have like a capture form and things like that. I'm not going to go into in this video. But when I actually have some results, when I test this, then I will create separate videos on list building, because it is a big thing. So for me, I had a website address at the back of the book. Obviously that's not a clickable link, but it just guides people saying, hey, look, if you're interested in 40 free digital downloads, then you can go to the website where it has the capture form where people can put in their email address. Obviously you need to have like the privacy policies and all that stuff sorted. The pages were hosted on Dropbox. I probably shouldn't have used there. But that's pretty much it. That's what's happening with the list building. I don't have enough to report back on the success of that, but I will be releasing another coloring book within this same brand, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, and I will report back some of the results for that as well. And just randomly, this is something that I'm just thinking about. I've actually started taking like a mentoring program for drop shipping, where people focus on making sales organically through TikTok videos. So my thought here is that if I can actually learn something about going viral on TikTok organically, that I can pass that information on and actually test it on books as well, because people do talk about TikTok and making sales and promoting it through there, but I don't know about you, I've never seen anyone actually show any results from it. So I think that's one that I will look at in the future and be testing. That's beside the point. Regarding this, probably a QR code would have been better. That's a bit more of a modern way for people to do things, where they can just hover the camera over the QR code and it will take them to the website. That's something that I'll be tempted to update my book with. So what I've been using is GetResponse to capture emails. So GetResponse costs me a lot of money because I'm holding people's emails that have signed up for stuff from my YouTube. So the reason why I don't offer like my ads course anymore is because that was a free offering where people get added onto that list. And as the list grows, it costs more and more money. So it's like I'm paying like $100 a month, basically just to hold people who want freebies, which is not good business practice. So I've included another list on that account for this book with 200 emails collected. So if you just had like 50, 100, 200 emails collected for just your book stuff, then the cost would be much lower, maybe $15 a month. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, that's the spend that would go into it if I wasn't using the same autoresponder that I've used for other email capturing stuff. So I think what I could have done to capture more emails and increase the percentage of emails being captured is to have a better free download. These were ones that were just kind of okay, and the website looks like shit, so a better website probably would have helped as well. But yeah, that's pretty much, I know it's a bit of a wishy-washy section, but that's pretty much what I've been doing with the list collecting, the list building. I will update with results on that in future videos. So let's move on to what I think is actually quite an important section here. And is this luck? Like, is this amount of money being made from one book, is it luck? I think the answer is yes. So let me explain that briefly. We can't rely on luck when it comes to making good money through KDP. What we can rely on is sticking it to a proven plan. Now, the more that you stick, the more rigidly you stick, the more you learn, the more you practice things, the luckier that you're going to get. So there is a quote, I can't remember who it's by. It's something like, the harder I work, the luckier I get. And it's so true. There is an element of luck, but you're not going to make the assumption that Chris has only been successful because he's lucky. I've worked very hard over many years to get to the point where this luck has happened. Okay. And the same will apply to you. But the thing is, you can eliminate all the shitty mistakes that I've made over the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years when it comes to publishing, and you can adopt this approach and get luckier quicker. Okay. So if you're expecting to upload one book using strategies that are outlined in this video, and you're expecting to make $15,000 in a couple months, it's not going to happen, man. Like, it just isn't. And the thing is, like, people get very emotionally attached to one book because they think they're following a proven strategy, because they think their book is the hottest shit on the planet. The thing is, I've produced books that don't work. I implemented this strategy into my last 2 books and it didn't work. That's the reality. Like, you just have to keep publishing, and you have to keep publishing with a certain strategy, a certain approach, and you will get luckier and you will hit those winners eventually. That's the reality. Now, this is better for me than just uploading hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books, hoping to get lucky on some of those books. Okay, so when we implement a structure and a routine like this, we are massively increasing our chances of getting lucky. So we get to the point now where, for me, it's 1 in 3 books are selling well, I guess. 1 in 10 sell good, and maybe 1 in 30 are crazy. Okay, so that's it's probably inaccurate, but that's kind of what I'm going for when it comes to this plan. And I think this is also important when it comes to your advertising spend. I think there is like I say, that people tend to get emotionally very attached to their book because they think it's great, and they end up spending tons of money on their books. And I think the reality here is that sometimes your book is not going to be accepted into the marketplace. I have a book that I think is incredible, and it's ranked 2 million. I ran ads to it. It's positioned nicely. It's in a hot niche. It's in a high demand niche, and it doesn't make any sales. It just happens. You have to get to a point where you will give up on a project. And some people will disagree with me. I'm sure they will, but I tend to give my books 2 to 3 weeks, maybe a month maximum, before I just move on to another project. You can't just keep wasting time on a book, especially if you've been putting the ads out there. You've done your niche research, you think you got a good book cover. You can't keep working on it and losing money. You have to move forward and test other niches and other areas on Amazon. So moving on from there, can I live off of this income from this one book? So publishing in general has been very good for me for a long time. This one book obviously is doing well. I have 2 other books that are doing well as well, and about maybe 10 books that are doing okay. I've got 5 or 6 books that are doing and then a couple that aren't doing anything at all. So should I live off of KDP? Should you? So there's always some absolute genius in the comments who sees income reports and then says oh, if I was making this much money from KDP, I would be retired on a beach island. Shut up, man. The reality here is that, what if Amazon terminates or blocks your account? What happens then? What happens to that income? This should be obvious for anyone that wants to create a business, create an income, etc., is that you shouldn't put all your eggs into one basket. Yes, KDP is great, but you need to diversify your income 100%. So the great thing for me with KDP is that it has allowed me to invest into more projects, and it's just freed up a lot of time in general. So a lot of the money that I make from KDP goes into FBA, which is fulfilled by Amazon. So selling physical products, we've got $3,000 worth of stock in our fucking kitchen at the moment. It's insane. But it's allowed me to invest into that, right? That's the great thing with KDP is that we can enter we can make some good money, and we can then put that into other projects. The other one that I'm looking at just started is I paid an extortionate amount of money for dropshipping mentorship, but again, this has come from KDP, right? But that doesn't mean that I'm going to live off it. I don't feel comfortable living off of KDP or YouTube royalties or anything like that. I don't. So the money has to be invested into these other projects as well, so we have more going. And the dream, the ultimate goal, I think, for everyone should be to not be platform dependent, because obviously Amazon, it's their rules, and I think for me especially, I'd love to just have my own website, my own products, and things like that. Okay, so can I live off it? Yes. Should you? No is the answer. But is KDP great? Yes, it is. Okay, so let's move on to the last few sections here. So has the price increase killed or affected the sales for this book in particular? So the answer is no. In fact, the royalties, the amount that I'm earning, has now gone up. So what happened was, a couple of weeks before the price increase, I actually increased the price of this book quite early, I suppose, as opposed to what most people were doing. I increased it quite early just because I was quite anxious to see how it would affect the sales. So when the price, between that point and the price increase actually happening, the sales did go down, and it was the first time for a while that the book hit like nearly 2,000 on its ranking. But shortly after that, when everyone else started adjusting their prices around, it started evening out and went back down to like, between 1,000 and 600, 600 and 1,000, should I say. So I actually increased it to the point where it was making more royalties than it was originally. So I'm actually making more money with that book now. So it's quite interesting to see that if you have a good book and you have lots of reviews from it, that the price increase might not affect you that badly. And the temptation here in terms of like testing how much you can kind of get away with charging for your book, I would be tempted at this point to increase the price of this book by another $1 to like $8.99 or so, just to see if I can make even more money with it. So that's something that I think can be tested when you have a proven book in a high demand niche. So as for my other books, there's been a couple, like my I have an addition and subtraction workbook that I showed off earlier that's got like 160 pages. Like that has been affected because I've had to increase the price to $9.97. I don't want to go to that $10 mark. I think that's a kind of a psychological barrier for people that are impulse buying, so I try not to go over that price point for some of these books. But that one I had to raise from like $7 something to $9 something because of the amount of pages that it has, and it's also an 8.5 by 11 book. So yeah, but the sales are still actually, they're still coming in for that book a couple of days or so. So it's not like it's killed it, but I had to increase it substantially, put it that way. Okay, so moving on, and we're getting toward the end of the video here, and I wanted to talk about going against the grain when it comes to your publishing mentality, because we've had a certain perspective pushed upon us for a very long time. I had it pushed upon me. It's no one's fault other than your own. If you decide to follow someone, that's on you. But it's easy to get lost down this kind of rabbit hole that is make money online and KDP and all these things. So what I found is that the reality is kind of going against the grain to what is the normal. So for example, you don't need a huge advertising budget to get your book ranked. So this is something that I've been testing for a very, very long time. If you're in my case study groups, you'll know that I don't spend much to get my books ranked. Whether those books are successful long-term and organically is a different matter, but getting ranked is a big deal because it's the start of visibility, and honestly, you don't need a huge advertising budget to achieve that, even inside these big niches, as I've just proven for my coloring books. Okay, so this whole massive advertising thing comes from people that don't have a clue what they're talking about. Yeah, so you won't see results on your first book, and this is the hard point from producing content on YouTube, is that flashing these numbers up on screen, whilst it's good for getting views and clicks to my videos, which is obviously my goal, it's no good for someone to see that and then think they can replicate that just because they think that they have this approach down to a T. So you're not going to see results on your first book. It's very, very, very unlikely. But what I can guarantee is that you're going to be massively increasing your chances of making sales when you have an approach like this. So just to go probably completely against everything that I've ever preached in the last year on this channel, is that I think you should make more books. because the results that you're seeing here in this video are the results of fine-tuning things over many years, and there are just some things that you cannot explain, you cannot show. Even if I do like a case study for this book or any other book, it's still what I've done. It's been done. It's in the past now. That content creation, everything's in the past. Okay, so you have to come to an understanding within yourself as to what good niches are. You have to do your niche research properly. You have to understand what a good quality cover is like. You have to understand your audience, etc., etc. Okay, so you're not going to be able to do that on your first book. So the recommendation here is that you do make more books. If you have to create your journals and planners, and if that gives you the confidence going forward to create better covers, to practice working on your covers, to practice working on your titles, if it makes you spend more time on Amazon doing niche research, that's great as well. But I think you need to produce books first before you sort of shoot for these sort of mega niches, and try and get results like this or similar from books, okay? Because it's going to be very hard to achieve on your first few books. So it took me a long time to sort of filter out my previous mentality, and this mainly came from listening to people that didn't really have my best interest at heart. So I've kind of gone my own way, and this is what's been working for me. But what works for you, is a completely different matter. But you need to make your way up to this point, is what I'm saying. Okay. So the one other thing here, and this is kind of hippie side of mindset stuff, is that everything must be positive. And I touched upon this earlier on when I was talking about being positive even when changes are happening. So AI is taking over. We're going to have a marketplace going to be flooded with AI. The price increase is going to kill off everyone's books. There has to be a positive attitude behind everything, and this is something I don't really ever talk about, because being negative, talking shit in forums and complaining about Amazon being saturated will do nothing for you. There's nothing, you're not helping anyone. There's nothing that's going to come from that. This is your journey. You're here because you want to be successful, and the only way to be successful is just to be positive with everything. And that's, I know it's kind of, like I say, a bit hippie, wishy-washy, but you have to be. Everything has to have that positive perspective, or you're not going to have that momentum to keep going forward and forward and forward and forward. And I think there's a lot of negative videos on YouTube as well. Like, there's a lot about account terminations, and I think if you're worried about that, then you just don't do it. Like, if you're worried about spending too much money on ads, then don't do it. This is a risk. Everything is a risk, but if you go into it with a positive attitude, you're going to see much better results, I promise you. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this section of the course, section of the video. Now, what I want to talk about for the last section here is a Discord group that I'm thinking about creating. Now, if you've made it this far, I would love to have your feedback on this, because what I'm going to be doing is hopefully creating a free Discord group for people to have like a general KDP chat in, and then we'll look at having possibly a paid area where I'm introducing new courses as a guide. Weekly calls, case studies, product suggestions, one-on-one calls, maybe like a WhatsApp group or something as well for quick feedback. But this depends, because it is quite the commitment. I've not solidified this thought whatsoever, but I need people's thoughts on what would be really helpful, because the reality is that no matter how many videos you watch or how many courses that you take, you're still, that doesn't really, in my opinion, that doesn't really help as much as people think it does, because ultimately, like, getting feedback from someone that knows what they're doing is much more valuable. So for me, you can do things the hard way, or you can do things the easy way, and the hard way for me has been learning KDP through YouTube videos and through my own experience. So that's taken like 10 years on and off, basically 10, 11, 12 years now. Whereas what I've done recently, since I've had money to invest, is to get mentoring for like my FBA stuff, which I managed to learn in about 3 months, and doing some dropshipping mentoring at the moment, which has taken me about maybe, it's probably going to take about 3 months as well to learn that. So learning from being actually getting feedback on what you're producing is extremely important, which you can't get from a course. Okay, so that's my thoughts on creating that. I will probably do like a test week or something if I decide to go through that. It could be incredible. I would love to do this. Group chats especially would be amazing, once a week or so. But that's just my initial thoughts here, and that's it for this video. You've done well. Congrats on getting to the end, and I'll see you soon.